Wait a minute, what does that here mean? This is an open front grille for the combustion engine version of the all-new Mercedes CLA. We're going to drive it here for you today and also give you some comparison to the all-electric version. And of course, everything you need to know in exterior and interior and the technology with Thomas Nautical Fuel in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go with the all-new CLA, because most of the previous customers, they will probably also go for the combustion engine version again. Not everyone is yet ready to switch to the electric version. Not everyone has the charging infrastructure. But we're going to point out what are maybe the pros of the combustion engine version, talking about weight and so on. But there are also pros for the electric version. So this will be very interesting. And you can see here the combustion engine, the petrol hybrid, has here the open front grille, whereas the electric version, it would be all the way closed with illuminated stars. Here you get the tiny stars, also pretty cool. So I like that in the design. Very nice front grille. You have this light unit on top of that. You can also get Matrix LED. We already did some night driving shots for you, and they are really very good. Also, for example, when there's like a vehicle coming to face you, that this one gets like, you know, left out from the Matrix LED and then it opens again, that it has like really good light performance on the road. So that worked very well already. And then the only thing design-wise, I think this light unit seems to be put really like on top of the front grille, and I personally like it is design where the lights are more on the level of the front grille. Or what do you think? This is here the progressive line. You can also go for an AMG line if you want a little bit sportier look. Then here on the side profile we can see the length is at 4.72 meters or 186 inches. So substantial length already, and this typical CLA coupe design line here floating. And you can of course also get the shooting brake. That is available both for the EV and for the petrol hybrid version, so that doesn't matter which engine version you pick there. Wheels from 17 to 19 inch. These here are the 18-inch wheels, so somewhat in the middle. Also with some aerodynamic inserts here in the AMG styling, so you can also vary that a little bit. And a nice strong red color for you today here as well. Suspension, there is one base suspension, that's it. Of course, this one might profit then from the lower weight this one has in comparison to the EV version. We'll find out later on. Then the rear with the light strip here, very spectacular as well. And once again, front and rear with this star pattern design in the lamps. And once again, there's this very famous story that the regulators say you cannot have it one-to-one in this, like in your CI language. It's like a stupid regulation, honestly. Why shouldn't Mercedes just put a one-to-one CI star in their lighting signature? I don't see any bad in this, but the regulators say, that's not allowed. So far they have to like move the stars a little bit differently than, strange things, some things. CLA 220, we'll soon talk about the engine versions, their different horsepower outputs and so on. And what's also pretty cool is that you can always flip the star here to open the trunk, and soon more details to the trunk, but I would just want to show you this is a classic sedan style. It's not a fastback style or something like that. And it's also a front-wheel driven platform. However, there are also all-wheel drive models. In the EV version, you get a separate motor then, rear axle, front axle. And here you have, of course, front plus rear on demand. And this one is also the 4MATIC, the all-wheel drive version. So it's a top petrol engine here today for you, the CLA 220. This one here comes with 211 horsepower, and the acceleration figure is at 7.1 seconds. This is so far the quickest version then for this one. And let's take a look under the hood, because that's where the EV version would usually have the frunk. And the slowest version goes towards like 9 seconds in the acceleration figure. At the moment, 3 horsepower outputs are available. And there we go. This is a 1.5 liter 4-cylinder. It's a completely new engine, mild hybrid. That means you will have some electric moments when you're, for example, starting at the traffic light or you're rolling towards the traffic light. This one will help with the consumption. We'll also do a first consumption test for you here today. We did it earlier already when we were down in the valley, we just had like a flat surface, could go like 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour and so on. Now we're up in the mountains in Austria, such a beautiful landscape here, close to Sölden. It's a famous ski resort as well. So yeah, enjoy the landscape with us together here when we continue with our review. And later on at the final conclusion, I'll also tell you if I would go for the combustion engine version or if I would go for the EV version. Being an all-new engine here, by the way also with a turbo, is of course, might be more intelligent to go for a lease first and see how the engine does. Here, some nice dampening underneath as well. So I'm really looking forward to drive it and see how this one does in the CLA. Because once again, having so many customers with the combustion engines before in the previous generation, the biggest customer group is always the one that has driven the car before. So once again, many people will still buy it also with the combustion engine here. And I also want to wait until it's a little bit darker that you can see how the light signature looks in the dark. Better to see here also that the grille is not illuminated with the stars itself, but it has here this frame around which is illuminated, so that looks quite cool. And very important info also on the engine. There were some rumors that it would have this wet timing belt in oil, but that's not true actually. So I asked Mercedes, and this one here has a camshaft drive chain. And two more very interesting things about this engine. We have it here in this cutaway model, also cool to see. And here, this cover here, you can always see it right here. You can actually fold this cover. It's not just hard plastic. Here, you can see here. It's like a harder foam, also like temperature resistant and so on. And the reason for that is that this is another NVH, noise vibration harshness measure. So it's more silent than, it's more insulated from the cabin. And we also did some snow testing earlier. The all-wheel drive actually sends up to 40% to the rear wheels, 40% of the power, especially at lower speeds. And the front-wheel drive is still like the predominant one. Still up to 40%, especially in the sport mode, is enough to do some sporty driving, even in the snow. However, if you drive quicker than 120 kilometers an hour, so quicker than 75 miles per hour, then only the front wheels are being used due to efficiency reasons, and it would not also give you like a better acceleration than at these higher speeds. And by the way, here that's only 1.5 liter. They said actually they needed like the space to put it in, so it's a little bit smaller than with 1.5 liter of displacement in this new platform. But since they also have the e-boost, it somewhat compensates for the lack of displacement. This is the key fob. We know it basically, but now has become smaller and lighter, so to speak. And then when I open the vehicle, or when I come to the vehicle, when I have the automatic unlocking activate here, the door handles come towards me. I'm more a friend of classic door handles. Yeah, this has been this trend in the automotive industry recently, and it will go away again. But still, this one here has like the haptic feedback when you just open it like this. Then here, frameless doors. There's no lamination here or something like that. Door closing sound. Yeah, it's very rare that door in the rear is a little bit better. In the front is not so cool, honestly. So it's very rare that you have frameless doors and then you still have a good closing sound though. And then here, inside of the doors, the top part is always structured and somewhat soft. Even nicer in here with the leather red surface, the Artico here in bright siding, different ones are available. And then you have here this paper wood style. It's a matte. It really consists of paper, but it's really high class. Pretty cool. And then here the seat control is moving again. This is cool. However, yeah, I always feel that a Mercedes should need 4 window levers. Then some say, I mistake the rear for the front ones, so I only have the front ones here and can activate the rear on demand with the separate buttons. So it might be pro and con. Tell me your opinion about that in the comments. And then it's harder packed than here at the inside of doors, also pretty shallow overall. Then Mercedes entry badge, and we have the progressive interior with the steering wheel and return of the physical dials. They listen to your and our feedback for the cruise control, right side for the volume, for example. Here also in the bright styling, you don't have to go for that one, you could. And later they will also make an animal-free steering wheel available. Then these seats, these are by the way the Artico seats. So it's high-grade leather red. Different stylings are available. You can also get a fabric on the inside and this one on the outside. You could also get sport seats with microfiber. This is the progressive seat. Let's say the base seat. However, this middle seating area and the top one, the inside is always the same. In the sport seat, the bolsters are different. So then you have different lower bolsters, different upper bolsters, and also the integrated head restraint. So the seating itself is comparable always. And here, for me personally, the progressive seat is better because it's more open here. However, for Leah, she finds the sport seat better because you know that it holds a little bit tighter. So that's a pro and con. And then here with the steering wheel, up and down, in and out. So it moves really far. Just this sound, you know, when you hit like the end, that should be maybe like a little bit improved, but the process itself is actually quite smooth. And the thing is here, really, what would I improve is really the seating comfort. And no matter which surface you pick, the seating depth is not enough. So here, like, you know, how hard it is here in the sit bone area, this should be softer, as for my personal taste, I have to say. And you can see headroom wise here, yeah, there's enough headroom left even with 1.89 meters. Then this whole cockpit dash area and so on. This is the optional passenger screen. You do not have to go for that one. Then you would have like a black area but with some nice tiny stars on that one. And then you have the large middle screen and digital instruments as well. Soon more to that. Here very prominent also this turbine style vent, and this is also illuminated with the ambient lighting at night. And here you can see more from this new paper surface, which again feels like matte wood, and it also has this Zen garden style, you know, Japanese Zen garden. Some might say it's not symmetrical, you know, but this is also how the Zen garden sometimes is. So yeah, it's a pretty nice idea. You can of course go for different stylings. Then here the cup holders, they are popping out and then they're somewhat adaptive, but just on one side. So larger bottles still, you know, fly around a little bit. In the front part, you do have some buttons here. Yeah, this here, the capacitive volume control, but I do have the real one at the steering wheel that I can, you know, like turn down or up. So I'm happy about that.
But not to skip the music yet.
Ah, yeah, it's a good point. You cannot go for the next music track on the steering wheel because you can like louder, you know, less loud, you know, like mute with one click, but you cannot go to the next music track or the previous one or listen to the one, you know, again, there you have to go into the screen. So yeah, that's maybe hit and miss a little bit. Dynamic select for the driving modes is in the lower part here. Then here is an inductive charging pad. If you, like me, prefer the cable charging, it's also possible, and they have actually integrated like a hole here. Just there's a hole that goes to the lower part where you then have the USB-C chargers. They're very powerful, some space here underneath, and once again from here you can reach this hole here that goes through there. You can put a cable from the lower part to the upper part through. And then here, armrest could maybe be a little bit softer, split opening, and then you have some more space here underneath. And the cockpit perspective here with the, they actually say rock and roll, a rocker and a roller. So rock and roll again at Mercedes. Yeah, just the music skip title is missing. This is capacitive here, and this is where you control the digital instruments. You can also have a small map view here, or a full map view is also possible, and not only with the car internal map, but also with Waze or Apple Maps in CarPlay, or with Google Maps in Android Auto. And then here, this is the home menu with the satellite view. Let's also check out the Apple CarPlay menu. This is then the Waze menu, for example. So Apple CarPlay integration is also pretty nice. The only thing is here in the lower part, the temperature unit, I think it's pretty small, first of all, and also 2-layer here for the seat heating and the steering wheel heating. Too complicated, I feel. And also the steering wheel is obstructing the view. So this lower part I kind of never see, also when I'm here like in the like GPS or so on. This is where the destination is usually visible, like how long. And then this part I don't see because here the steering wheel is just blocking the view. So this is how I see the infotainment system. I can see this part here but not like this part because it's really blocked by the steering wheel. Then there's the passenger display. You can show that to us. There we go. And, well, not sure if they would use it all the time. She could play Angry Birds.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the time she would probably use her own smartphone nevertheless. And I'm not sure if we would pick this option, but maybe for the EV version, if you want to play some Angry Birds.
While charging here.
Yeah, you need to improve your high score. Yay! Yeah, so tell us in the comments if you would use the passenger screen here. Now to the rear seats. First of all, the rear door is nicely done here, all the way with the leatherette, also in the top part, all the way soft, that's nice. And this paper wood style here in the matte styling integrated as well. And some structure here, yeah, but that's not really soft or something like that. You do have a separate window lever here for the rear seats, by the way. And of course, also all the way, once again, with the frameless windows. There's no laminated glass or something, by the way. Then here, ISOFIX for the rear seats each outside. Then it comes down here, not adaptive, but still it feels actually quite nice. This is also this separate ski hatch. And now comes the most interesting part in the comparison, electric versus the combustion engine. You might remember in the EV version, the floor is very high because the battery is underneath. Here in the combustion engine version, there is this middle tunnel, and then this one here really goes deeper in there, these foot garages, so to speak. So that means my feet are like lower in the vehicle like this, and this is a better seating position. So in the EV I would sit a little bit more like this, so worse angle for the legs, so to speak. So this is better here, and when I'm driving as a tall person I can still sit here also as a tall adult behind it, although due to the lack of comfort from the seats I usually put this one here, you know, from the inclination, pretty far behind. And headroom here, this directly fits with 189/602. It's close, definitely. And there's always the fixed glass roof. That's the reason that it doesn't get any closer. That's why they put the fixed glass roof. The only option here would be that you have this digital shade, but it does not change anything from the heat that comes inside. They do have a standard layer against the heat on the inside. A closed roof would still always be less hot, so to speak. Yeah, tell me what you think about this. So yeah, it fits to the rest of the image that there's not too much space in this car overall, but definitely better with the comfort here in the combustion engine version. Now to the trunk or the boot, which is at 405 liters. Same for the EV and for the combustion engine. Here you can see height-wise, the trolley also fits underneath, no problem. And then the width here in the latter part is about 1.40 meters, is way wider in the front, so they use all of the wheel arches here. Underneath, you can see this is like a mat, like a cover, and then you can fold up this, but there's not much space here. Then the normal length to the back seat, oh, this is actually more than a meter, so this is like 1.07 meters and 42 inches. And the total length here, when we fold the seats, we have to do it when we go around. This one is almost 180 or 70 inches, so 1.80 meters or 70 inches. So it is well usable. The only limitation is here the height, which we have here at about 18 inches or 46 centimeters, and this part here underneath is not covered, by the way. So you see like the, just a pure metal. If you want more flexibility, then you have to go for the CLA shooting brake. We also have already a static review of that for you if you want to check it out later. Let's start driving the CLA 220 with the mild hybrid petrol engine. And if you compare it again to the electric one, at this moment there's no difference because there's no RPM at this moment. So this mild hybrid engine can actually roll electric. And even when I go slightly on the throttle, it still works. At this moment here downhill, that's why I want to start with this example. And by that way you can also save some fuel. We did some tests earlier in the valley, going straight, some 6 liters or more kilometers, 39 mpg US, 47 mpg UK. Yeah, and here for example, still the engine is off, especially in this eco mode. which you can set in the driving modes. Then this is also, you know, more pronounced. The throttle input is drawn back a little bit like this, and so you can drive it also electric, at least at times. It's not like with a inbuilt hybrid from Toyota or something like that, but you can see, at least when you're using this downhill momentum, then you can really extend this period of time where you don't use any fuel. That's very interesting. In the standard setting, by the way, the steering is really light, so it doesn't have much resistance. You can, however, individualize that with the driving mode settings. I can soon also show that to you. But it does have still, you know, I would say, like, good feeling. It's just that there's not much resistance. So there's no dead zone area or something like that. And something what we also feel here directly when we're going down, and the suspension is really good. 18-inch wheels we have mounted here, so there can be larger ones, there can be smaller ones. But the suspension is doing a good job in keeping the car upright. At the same time, it has this typical floaty Mercedes feeling. So the suspension is the thing that feels most sophisticated about this car, I would say. And that also makes a lot of the whole driving feeling. It's interesting. It's like the sun here is melting something, you know, on the road here at the moment. So you got to be cautious about that. And even still here, the engine was not active at all so far. So the downhill thing in the eco mode, that's really a thing you can really use very well. I don't know, maybe at some point the brakes, you know, when you go downhill a long time. But then again, you can also use recuperation here, and that's of course good. It will be full quite quickly when you're going downhill, probably. But yeah, very interesting to find out about these differences. Now, when I'm a little bit on the throttle here, accelerating out of the corner, here engine got on, and I can also show you different drive modes. Here, for example, the individual drive mode, I've set it in a way that the drive is, for example, like laid back, relaxed, but the steering here now is set to sport. So now I have more resistance in the steering, and that's to me more likable. You know, I just prefer it that way. And now one of the biggest differences already, especially when going down these corners here, and especially for Liam, passenger printers, this is the vehicle with way less weight. We don't have the big battery here. So in the corners, it just feels and is so much lighter. So indeed, cornering with the combustion engine version is more fun, less stress in your body, and especially for the passenger. But we will have another big difference when we're going uphill soon again, because this one here will have less power as the combustion engine version if you compare it to the electric one. And here also, even when I was going downhill and you're slow and you want to get out of the corner, even though this one is the strongest petrol engine version, it doesn't give you like this spontaneous kick out of the corner. You gotta bear that in mind. You can play with it a little bit. For example, go to the sport mode, then whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah, that's also one I want to show you. That was, I'm not sure if you really like saw or felt it on camera. There's one thing I don't like about this engine, when it does the downshift, and we especially have that, for example, when we're going downhill here in the sport mode, it tends to stutter, you know? So here it was shifting down, it was like rather unpleasant feeling. So gearbox is a dual clutch transmission here, and that is to me really the most, you know, unlikable thing about this engine. So I'm not really super happy with the shifting overall. Here in the sport mode, by the way, as I said, more resistance from the steering. That's actually pretty cool. So I like that. And even in the sport mode, it still gives me this sophisticated Mercedes ride, because the suspension is not changing at all. It's not an active adaptive suspension here for the CLA. I asked again, and obviously it's also not planned. You've seen it a couple of days ago when we were presenting the final version of the Mercedes GLB in the new generation. That one gets the adaptive suspension with the 20-inch wheels, but so far it's not planned for the CLA here. Now it's an interesting situation. I have to be on the brakes. Now I can accelerate out here onto this road. So I'm coming we go. That's actually quite decent. So it's also not too loud when you accelerate out that engine, and the acceleration you get out of it is indeed quite decent. So can't complain about that actually. So when you're on the throttle, you also feel that you have something of this electric boost, and then you get the combustion engine, you know. So it's like kind of like in a two-step way, so to speak. And we can also, mainly of course thought for the motorway and so on, cruise control set can be here on the left side on the steering wheel. Again, with the physical dials, I can also then change the speed quite quickly. That's a cool thing. If I want to deactivate something, by the way, most important thing is here, the speed chime, EU speed chime. I just can easily press it here on the nice here on the touchscreen, so that's easy to be deactivated. Even if it would be on, it's not too annoying, so that's still okay. Look at that one here, AMG GT convertible. Wait a minute, AMG GT convertible is actually now the Mercedes SL. Sorry about that. There's of course also Mercedes SL. Yeah, but that was my point. You know, you could see that the Mercedes SL is now an AMG GT Roadster, basically. Yeah. That my spontaneous reaction just revealed the truth about that vehicle here, definitely. So if you now compare the previous generation CLA to this one here, this one does feel sophisticated in the driving, especially due to the improved suspension, I would say. That's the main thing. Another thing I want to mention here, you know, how the wheels turn in. They go very wide. That means, although you don't have like a rear axis steering or something, you have a quite narrow turning circle. You can manage it very well. So maneuvering this car around is actually pretty easy and simple. And here now again, the engine has some power, you know, it's not too bad. So when you hit the throttle, at least here with the CLA 220 with the all-wheel drive, you don't feel that you would have like a very small engine or something like that. That's definitely okay. The only thing that could be, you know, in this direction is when we go up the hill. Here we go. I have still put the sport mode on, and now let's see how the engine reacts when we go uphill. Of course, it's a little bit more stressed now from the RPM. We can also show you the acceleration performance uphill now a little bit. So when I'm here going uphill slightly with like some 50 kilometers an hour, let's go. That's 100. I mean, still decent, I would say. Oh, there's the... yeah. I would say it's decent power output, right? And the engine doesn't feel too stressed, especially when you pin it down. Then it's actually fine. But now let's see here in this tight turn here. Yeah, that was actually quite cool. That was good. So not sure if it's also a driving mode dependent. So now in the sport mode, the RPMs are kept higher, and the vehicle is already a gear lower. So let's see how, I mean, maybe you're not always in the sport. Let's check it out how it is in normal comfort mode. So now when we approach it in the normal comfort mode, and I would just drive as I would usually drive it. And here now, let's see. Yeah, it's actually also quite smooth. That's fine. So I rather felt problems with the suspension, not suspension, no, that's no problem at all, with the transmission when we were going downhill, or sometimes when you're like on even surface and suddenly the vehicle is switching a gear. That might be a problem. But here going uphill, even in the comfort mode, the vehicle detects, okay, maybe I should be a gear lower, keep the RPM a little bit higher, and then it's actually fine. The thing is, yeah, when you then you feel it's not the highest displacement engine, but still, due to the turbo, I would still say it has sufficient horsepower output. If it would be the same case, if you would have like one of the entry-level versions, considering the engine offering, this is what I meant. Like when we were driving really slow, this is like real blub, 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 blub stuttering. So, I don't know, like below 30 kilometers an hour, this is where this transmission somehow sometimes seems to be like, I don't know what I'm doing, you know. But when you're a little bit quicker and you already have the vehicle at a little bit higher RPM, then it's actually fine, you know, and that turbo really gets you out of the corner again. And once again, smooth also how the suspension is handling. And Leah also seems very relaxed. So this is once again then advantage in comparison to the EV version. So to sum it up about this engine here, consumption is actually quite fine. Transmission is the least likable part about it. It's not too loud. It has decent power here in the CLA 220, but I would not necessarily go for much weaker versions of that one here. And the best thing about the ICE CLA is that it's lighter. That makes it more driving fun in the corners in comparison to the CLA EQ. Then again, the CLA EQ has more punch out of the corners, especially if you go for one of the dual motor versions. And now pricing and conclusion. Yeah, I see that Leah is also very happy seeing this beautiful landscape here in the Austrian Alps. Yeah, we are always also quite often here on holiday actually, like in Italy or Austria, in the Alps or Switzerland, or maybe in the German Alps as well. Predominantly in summer, because in winter it's always very cold. So about the CLA here today in the new generation, I think looks pretty cool. I would be happier if the light unit would be on line with the front grille. That's maybe my thing. Tell me if you agree to me or not. Interior, I think, is also very fancy from the design. However, I would like more seating comfort with more seating depth on the seats. That would be the most important thing to me. Clearly, the combustion engine version has an advantage in the rear, where you just have these deeper foot garages. So that helps with rear passenger comfort, especially if you have longer legs like I do. Then the driving difference. So this one profits from lower weight. So especially when we went up the Alpine roads here, was better for Leah as a passenger, because with lower weight puts less stress on the passenger. So this one was better to drive in the twisty corners and so on. Then again, this one has less power. For the EV version, you can get way more powerful versions, better in the acceleration, so you could get better out of the corners than here just with the mild hybrid petrol engine. So yes, it is not the most powerful engine. It's, by the way, also very cool, right? The E-Class all-terrain, one of my favorite estates, definitely. Also in the fitting red color here for that one. So back to this one here, the all-new CLA. So yeah, more power from the engine would have been good. I mean, this was the most powerful version we drove today. So if I then think about the entry-level version, I think it's maybe a little bit underpowered. I honestly have to say, I would not put a Mercedes on the market with less than 2 liters of displacement. That's not a logical statement. It's just like an emotional statement. But I think many of you will probably agree to me. Yeah, but other than that, the engine itself did actually perform quite well. How it felt, you know, how refined it was and so on. It's just not the most powerful one. And consumption, you can end up, we did some like tests earlier today, with some 6 liters on 100 kilometers, which is still decent for a car of that size approximately. Was also pretty cold here, obviously, as you see it here today. So if you now conclude between the EV and the combustion engine, this one lighter, that's why better in the drive. And then the EV, more powerful versions, is more spontaneous, quicker in the drive. And of course, it's smoother with the EV version, whereas here you sometimes feel like when the vehicle is shifting down and so on, then you like have like this, like a hump or something. That is of course all the way smooth with the EV, you know. Yeah, and then of course it will matter very much if you have charging infrastructure, and about the pricing as well. This one here starts 44,000 euros or 39,000 pounds. And with all the bells and whistles, when you go all-wheel drive, biggest engine, lot of trim and so on, you can score like 67,000 euros, something like that. It's of course not cheap at all. And then if you think about EV version, depending on small or bigger battery, you add some 4,000 to 8,000 euros on top of that. So yes, you will save money with this one. However, it depends on the market. In a lot of markets, meanwhile, there's high taxation on petrol versions and there's some tax benefits for electric versions, and there the electric version will be cheaper. So which one will be sold more will also highly depend on the political landscape or the taxation landscape in each country. This one will also be very interesting. Now you tell me, which one would you go for? The combustion engine model here of the CLA or the EV version? Looking forward to your comments. And now also check out our EV review, the CLA EQ, or maybe already check out the bigger brother, the SUV version, the GLB.